Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today on Living Abroad, I am doing a video on the cost of living. So in today's video, we're going to compare 3 expensive things and 3 cheap things, in my opinion, here in Turkey and more specifically in Istanbul. My name is Alex and you can live through me. Now, before we get started, let's have some guidelines and some idea of what I would say is cheap or expensive. So right now, $1 equals about 8.5 Turkish lira. And when I'm comparing these, I'm generally speaking the cost of the item compared to the other goods and services you can get here in Istanbul. Also comparing it to back home in Canada, the prices that I saw there. Or let's start with number 1. So the first thing that I found to be a little expensive here was the price of alcohol. Now, I don't drink, so it's not an issue for me, but if you like to drink, this might be a surprise for you if you come to Istanbul, Turkey, that the prices of alcohol are a little bit higher than other countries that you may have visited or have seen. To give you some idea of the prices of alcohol here, a domestic beer in a restaurant would be around 20 lira, and imported beer would be around 30 lira. But at the grocery store, domestic beer would be around 15 lira, and imported beer around 20 lira, and you can get a bottle of wine, like a mid-range bottle of wine, for about 65 to 75 lira as well. So that is one expensive thing here in Turkey. Moving on to something that's cheap, food. So food is really cheap here in Istanbul. Anything from restaurants to food delivery and takeout, and to buying groceries. So overall, food is something that is cheap here. For example, you can buy a sandwich, like a chicken sandwich, probably a foot long, the size of Subway, let's say, for about 9 lira, even cheaper some places. Now, of course, they can range anywhere between 9 and 20, even 30 lira, but if you have a budget, you can really go far here as far as food prices go. And in restaurants, like mid-range restaurants, you can sit down and have a proper full-on entree for about 30 to 50 lira, depending on where you go. So Istanbul is a place for you if you're like me and you're a foodie. You can try different places, restaurants and cafes, and not worry too much about it because the cost is really good for you and it's really cheap. Now, another thing that I love about Turkey is their applications for food delivery. So you can use an app called Getir or Yemek Sepeti. Now, Yemek Sepeti is just mainly restaurant food, but Getir, you can order all kinds of things from there, right? You can order water, chips, snacks, and it's really convenient. And the great thing about that, unlike the West, you don't really have to worry about tipping. And if you do, it's because the Turkish lira is so low right now, it doesn't feel like it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. So it's really convenient to use these applications as well. So food is really cheap here. The second thing that's expensive, surprisingly, is red meat. Now, we just spoke about food being cheap, but that's just in restaurants and groceries, and generally speaking, food is cheap. But price of red meat here is higher than the other meats like chicken or fish. So keep that in mind if you want to cook at home, that meat tends to be a little bit more expensive. So I was surprised to see the price of meat being more expensive than other vegetables and fruits and even chicken and fish. So that was surprising to me. A little side story, when I was younger, a teenager in high school, I used to work for a meat plant. So I don't know why I'm telling you this, but anyways, I remember that all these like big cows would come through and I used to have to like hook them with one arm and vacuum their leg with the other one. So red meat isn't really on top of my list, so it doesn't bother me so much that I can't cook it so much at home. So now you know me a little bit more and a little bit better. Now let's move on to the second thing that is cheap. Cheap item number 2. So the second thing that really surprised me how cheap it was, transportation. Anything from taxis to ferries to buses to trains, subways here in Istanbul is relatively cheap. Now you can get on a bus for about 3 Turkish lira, and you can use the ferry to go across for about 5 lira, and even the subway, the Marmaray, the express train they have, for only 7 lira as well. So everything is cheap, especially if you have your Istanbul cart here. So right there, it makes things much easier to travel, and you just basically load this with money and wherever you go, just tap it and the money comes right off of here. And the great thing about this card, actually, you can use it to order food off Getter, the app we talked about earlier, and other things as well. So it's kind of neat to use this not just for transportation, but for other things as well. So that was the second thing that surprised me, was transportation being cheap in Istanbul, Turkey. Before we move on to the third and final most expensive thing, if you're enjoying this video and finding it informative or entertaining, just press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. So, item number 3 that's very expensive here in Turkey, in my opinion, that I noticed was used cars. I was blown away to see all the different prices and how high they are compared to Canada. So a used car in Canada you can get for a couple $1,000s and it'll be decent, it'll get you around from A to B. But here, I was so surprised to see how high the prices are. I'll show you what I mean. Let's take a look at a used car website here in Turkey. I just chose a Honda Civic because it's a common car. For example, a 2001 Honda Civic with 200,000 kilometers on each would cost you around 20,000 Canadian dollars. So this one's 19, 21, 21. So let's just say 20,000 for a 20-year-old car with 200,000 kilometers on it. Now, a similar car in Canada would cost you, look at this one, 2001 Honda Civic with a lot less mileage for only 2,800. And even cheaper one down here, sure, this one's got high kilometers, but it's only $1,000. And same with this one, a lot less kilometers, 2,800, and so on and so forth. You can see only 1,500. So as you can see, the prices of cars compared to Canada is extremely expensive for a used car. I've seen cars go for $40,000 or $50,000 that are like 10 years old. At that price, you might as well buy a house in the countryside here. It's it's crazy, and it's unfortunate how much the Turkish citizens have to pay for these used cars, and I'm not really sure why. That's it, guys. So I don't know why. If you do know why, let me know. Why are second-hand used cars so expensive here in Turkey? Leave your comments down below. I would love to know. Moving on to our third and final cheap thing here in Turkey, and that is rent. So accommodation can be very cheap here, especially if you're looking for just a room, or if you don't mind having roommates and a common space, a common kitchen to share. The price of rent can be really cheap. So if you're on a tight budget or a student, Turkey is a great place to rent a place for a very, very cheap price. I've seen rooms go for about 600 to 700 lira, even cheaper. I've seen them go for 400 lira. So if you really look hard and if you don't mind and aren't too picky and just need a place to sleep, then you can find really cheap accommodation here in Turkey. Also, if you want to know how to rent a place, check out the description down below. I've put 5 ways to rent a place in Istanbul, as well as if you want to see the apartment tour of my place, you can find it down below as well. So there you have it, guys. That was 3 expensive things and 3 cheap things that I saw and noticed here in Turkey. And what do you guys think? Did something surprise you? What are some of these prices in your city? Also, if you know why cars are so expensive here in Turkey, please let me know in the comments section down below. As well as, don't forget, if we hit 1,000 subscribers, then I'll buy a brand new camera so I can bring better quality videos and audio for you guys. See you guys next week.